Hey, fight fans, thanks for joining us. This is the after show to the weigh-in that we're going to call After the Bell. It's me, Nathan Tyrone, the one, the only, and I am here with Mr. MMA.
The incomparable Mr. MMA.
And thanks for joining us. Let's talk fights.
First and foremost, I have to say that I have been overjoyed with the fact that there's been UFC cards on every Saturday for about, the past 6 weeks.
Yeah, it's been fun for fight fans.
I will have to agree with you that this past card in Brazil was a little lackluster.
Yeah.
But I'm going to have to tell you, honestly...
They were decent matchups, though.
They were excellently matched up. I love what Joe Silva and these guys are doing. Whatever they're doing with these fight matchups, they're definitely taking more time in doing it. They're definitely not doing, it would be a great matchup if we put this guy against this guy. No, they're really looking at these guys' records and what have you, and trying to put comparable fighters with comparable fighters.
Right.
Whether it be a guy whose expertise is striking versus a guy who's a grappler. But no matter what, as far as skill sets and levels, I have not found a mismatch in there or a jobber fight like I like to come.
I think injuries plagued them so much that we did get a few mismatches over the last few years.
I was looking forward to that Rose Namajunas and Ansarov fight.
I was looking forward to that.
I was surprised that Ansarov. Well, I mean, I don't know. I would attribute the missing weight to her obviously being sick with the flu. So that couldn't.
I've seen fighters come in, with obvious injuries. John Jones, Gustafsson, and still make the fight.
He's still gonna stick with that one.
I'm telling you, for all you fight fans who don't know, Mr. MMA and I, we're really good friends, and we're always talking about fights, even when the cameras aren't running. That's one of the reasons we decided to do this little podcast for you. And I am a long-standing believer that in the fight between Gustafsson, John Jones was injured. You can see how he holds his right arm down throughout the entirety of the fight, almost covering his ribs or keeping his shoulder in place or something. There's something going on with John Jones's right side in that fight, so much so that he doesn't really even throw the right arm until the fourth round, and even then he threw elbows mostly, not really the arm, and really kept it down. And the bulk of the damage was done, obviously, on the right side of John Jones' body. Now, I know I've argued this point with so many MMA fans, and I realize that I'm in the minority, but I feel like the hype train to Gustafsson is coming to a quick and violent end. And that fight, it put Gustafsson in the rarefied air in terms of people who've gone the distance with the champ or people who've looked good against the champ. But I think it was just a circumstance situation for Gustafsson. I don't think that was indicative of the kid's overall skill set. And I never did think that.
Gustafsson reminds me of a Swedish Stefan Struve.
Without the wins over the top 10.
I don't know. About him and Ryan Jimmo. This is also a little bit of a standing joke too. When Gustafsson fights, I see when he throws his little combos, he kind of scurries away like, "Don't hit me, don't hit me." And I know that's not how he's really, acting or.
I wouldn't be surprised. Maybe he is. How do you know? He cried. He cried in the octagon. Maybe he is the "don't hit me" guy.
And then we watched Ryan Jimmo this past weekend, who took a horrible groin shot.
Yeah.
Okay, from Barroso. I mean, I'm still wincing off.
That was like a direct shot too. That was right to the nuts.
I don't even think he aimed.
I don't know if you ever saw the Kevin Smith movie, Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back. They had this character, Matt Hamill played him.
Damn.
Oh, what's it? Not Matt Hamill, but fucking Luke Skywalker. He played Cockknocker.
Yeah.
And that's the first thing I thought of. I was like, holy shit. But it looked brutal.
But have you ever noticed when Jimmo scurries away, he scurries in the similar manner? No, don't hit me. No, don't hit me. You know what? My wife. I shit you not. I shared this on Twitter and it got favorited by 3 people. My wife said Ryan Jimmo scurrying looked like Ralph Macchio in his first fight in the Karate Kid.
No, listen, Ryan Jimmo never looked as good as Danny LaRusso did. Okay, Danny LaRusso was a fucking
I'm talking
man.
about his very first tournament fight in the movie. When he got off the mat and the guy charged him and he kept scurrying off the mat.
Oh right.
And Miyagi had to tell him stay strong, stand there. Okay, my wife's literally
Miyagi do karate.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying. My wife really felt that Jimmo reminded her of Ralph Macchio from Karate Kid, and it's funny because because that's exactly the impression I get from Gustafsson. It's almost like you got into a business where you don't like part of the business.
Which is getting hit.
Yeah, like, come on.
And
that scurrying to me, it's like saying more than you want to say. It's like talking with your body. You're letting this guy know, no, don't hit me. I don't want you to touch me. You know what I mean? Like, I saw it in the Rumble fight. I saw it in the Jones fight. There was and even though I know you always like to talk shit about the janitor, even in his fight with Matt Yushchenko.
I don't talk shit about him because he's way beyond his prime.
But even in his fight with Gustafsson's fight with Matt Yushchenko, he does this type of scurrying that's like suggests he does not want to get hit. And
I wouldn't think he would. I mean, when after he was beat by Rumble, and when I say beat, I mean beat with the capital B, fucker cried.
So. I'm not. You know why? I'm not gonna lie to you. I would have cried too because that fight.
Fucking a wake-up call. That was the hype train coming to the stop, the full-on derailment of the hype train. And I think
I play the other side of the coin. I still feel like there's this little Tinkerbell fairy, and she fell in love with Rumble's hazel fucking eyes, and she sits on his UFC gloves, playing with her wand, okay, and once in a blue, taps the glove with the wand because. A lot of the guys that he hits, I've seen these guys take those same type of hits from other hard hitters, right. And they weathered the storm and kept going. But Rumble does it, and their knees turn to jello.
Well, it's kind of like Big Country with the freakish power. It just could be he's got this freak power. And after he left the UFC for that short tenure where he then became a champion over at the WSOF, you really saw a change in maturity in Rumble. And when he came back, he carried that maturity with him. And so,
and I like the fact that nobody, and Dana White tried to stay away from it at the press conferences about his domestic violence.
Yeah, but
he does have I think in 2008 he had those charges, but then the most recent ones in 2011 were dismissed.
Yeah.
But I mean, Rumble's been humble. That's the best way I can say it. Since he's come back, public, Rumble's been humble.
Apparently, he's been abusive in private, but again, it's one of the reasons why I think maybe it's a good thing that Cormier, who I fucking can't stand, won the light heavyweight championship instead of Rumble. Because say what you want about the big mouth and the big ego and the big head of Cormier, he doesn't have the personal or social issues of a Rumble, and he would not have brought that. He didn't bring that to the belt, whereas Rumble would have brought that to the belt had he won.
And to agree with you on that one, in the sense of I don't like DC either. The arrogance I think just comes with the territory of being an athlete. I think it's some sooner or later it's got that little arrogance going to show its ugly head in any fighter. The biggest reason why I don't like DC is he tries to baffle you with bullshit. Dazzle you with brilliance, baffle you with bullshit. Okay, let's not kid ourselves. Since he won the Strikeforce heavyweight tournament, even before he won it, since he won it, he has not finished anyone of big consequence. I do not count Patrick Cummings, the Starbucks barista, on his UFC debut.
Was he really a Starbucks barista?
Okay, yeah, he was a Starbucks barista. Okay, supposedly had 40 fights turned down.
Shit.
And what have you, and that's another thing. One of the main reasons. This is one of the main reasons.
I was never impressed by that Grand Prix win, by the way.
I wasn't impressed because he didn't finish Barnett.
Right.
If anybody
did he finish anyone in that series?
Only Bigfoot Silva.
Well.
And whatever no-name guy they had before that. He had like 2 finishes during that tournament. But my biggest thing with him is the dumb jock scenario. Perfect example. When he was training for Jones, this mofo goes on record and says that I'm training with Cain Velasquez, and Cain Velasquez is imitating John Jones in the cage.
Dumbest statement ever.
Okay. I want everyone out there that's listening to my voice to go out there and look up every single damn video that you can on Cain Velasquez. Velasquez throws maybe a handful of leg kicks, period. Let alone, when have you ever seen this dude throw an oblique kick?
Right.
Nobody started throwing oblique kicks until Jones. So that's number one. Number two, Cain Velasquez is 5'11". How does a 5'11" guy mimic a 6'4" dude without wearing platform shoes in the cage?
How does he do it? He doesn't do it.
Okay.
Exactly.
How does Cain Velasquez with a 77-inch reach mimic an 84.5? Was it 84, 86?
I think it's 84.5.
Look it up. Yeah, but
how does he do it? He doesn't do it. I mean, that's just the most asinine statement.
Yeah, and you're gonna go on record saying that this guy's mimicking that.
Yeah, now I'm sure that Cain Velasquez is one hell of a guy to train with. It's a guy you want to train with. He's a fucking champ. But
then you come out and say that because Bader tried to proposition for the vacant fight for the belt, that he was cutting in line. Cormier, what did you do?
Yeah.
Did you not leave the heavyweight division so you wouldn't have to face your buddy?
He left the heavyweight division so he wouldn't have to face defeat.
Okay.
Is what it
basically.
I mean, he was too small for these guys in the heavyweight. And he's kind of small in terms of stature for the light heavyweight. You know, I mean, he's built better for the light heavyweight though, but he was way too small to be thumping around with Junior Dos Santos and Cain Velasquez. I mean,
ultimately he was going to see the agony of defeat on that one. But you go and you leave the heavyweight division to go to the light heavyweight division, and you fought a Starbucks barista and an over the hill, war torn, long layoff from a surgery, Dan Henderson.
Right.
And you get a #1 contender shot?
Keywords over the hill.
Okay.
Dan's been riding into the sunset for a while, and only he's not on a fast stag. He's on a nag. And I don't think he wants to go. I think he's riding, kicking and screaming into the sunset. No, I really do. I think so. And I think
we're going to 2-5 record.
Yeah,
I do not disagree.
We're going to see that with this upcoming fight night. I believe
Bosch is going to hurt him.
I fear you're right.
I think he's going to hit him in such a way that Dana's going to tell Ariel Arawani in the post-fight contest, I'm going to have a talk with Hendo in the back, and
I think because it's Dan Henderson is one of the pioneers of the sport and has nothing to prove. And I hate to see fighters go out like this, just hanging around too long. Ultimately damaging their legacy.
Even Munoz, and I know how you feel about Munoz, but even Munoz's victory over Barnett, it was the closest I think we're going to get beyond GSP, seeing somebody finish on top at the.
Did Munoz go out after that?
Yeah, that was his retirement fight in Thailand, in Manila. Yeah, that was his retirement fight. And
at least he was smart enough to get while the getting was good.
Yeah, because I'm not going to lie to you, his performance in that fight, as great as it was only great because I think who he was fighting.
Yeah,
I think if it would have been somebody else,
strong word.
That's how everybody else.
I've never seen a Mark Munoz fight where I would say.
Because
they performed great.
They love those Donkey Kong punches, and
I got to admit he did have a certain pep in his step, high in his stride type of situation, and knowing that he's going out probably gave him that.
I think he came into the UFC the same way Lombard did, off of a lot of hype, but people were not remembering that the caliber of fighters that they were fighting were not the same as the UFC. And
but even when he was in the UFC, he rode a hype train for a while. They were giving him lower tiered opponents initially, and really hyping it up like he's really doing something impressive.
I think they lower tiered and compared to the UFC, but the highest they could offer him.
Once he got into the UFC, they were giving him lower tiered fights for like 2 years. And hyping him up like he's the next best thing.
Actually, I think they were giving him mediocre. I think they were giving him those true test fights, so that if he was worthy to face Anderson Silva, nobody would have had a doubt. Problem is he could never get that.
Yeah,
he never got that victory.
For a second while watching Mark Munoz thought, "Wow, this guy's going to be champ one day." That thought never crossed my mind while watching him fight. So,
I didn't think he would be champ, but I did think he would have a shot at the title. I honestly saw him at least having a fight with Anderson Silva, and that fight was gonna be crazy
because he could never get past an eliminator. Who's he gonna beat?
But
that's important enough.
But mind you, in his defense, he had to. I forgot who he had before the Weidman fight. Because remember, Weidman took that fight on short notice, 2 weeks short notice. He had somebody else for that fight. and they bowed out. I forgot who it was.
I don't recall either.
Yeah, and mind you, that fight was marked as if Munoz won, he got Anderson. If he didn't...
Right, no, he was often given eliminator opportunities, but he never came through on any... I think he had like three... Right.
Three of them.
I was just going to say that.
Weidman, Machida...
Yeah. And so, but he's never come through, and in my argument, in my opinion rather, it's because he just doesn't have the skill sets, doesn't have the talent, never did.
I think his mindset changed. Once he started... you heard me say 1,000 times. It's hard to stay hungry...
Once you start get that money.
Once you already eat filet mignon and lobster. You're not hungry. You're not starving. You might have an appetite, but you're not starving. You know what I mean?
Might be a little peckish.
You know what I'm saying? And he opened up Rain Academy.
Right.
He was getting himself a nice stable of fighters. Guys that were actually even being talked about in title contentions.
And like I think some of those fighters from Rain Academy will eventually see the way to the UFC. That'll happen.
You know, well, no, a lot of them were still in, but that's my point. Is that I think when you start... what's the word? Diversifying, I guess, dividing up your attention to so many things. Yeah. He wore himself, I think, a little thin. And on top of that,
I think before that measure of success, I'm telling you, bro, I was just never impressed.
I was impressed by his WEC Donkey Kong destroying. He was destroying everybody. But then again, let's rate that level of competition versus what he was coming into in the UFC. Yeah. And we will say dramatic difference. So we basically a mediocre fighter is gonna look. Munoz looked like in the WEC, like how Phil Davis is supposed to look like in Bellator now.
How he's supposed to look like? What do you think? Did he fight already?
No, right? He hasn't fought yet, and I don't really look forward to Mr. Wonderful. I don't even know. I don't even name him. I can't. Even though I am Mr. MMA, I cannot name one person off the Bellator roster that I really, really want to see Phil Davis go against.
Yeah, me neither.
You know what I mean?
I think the hilarity of the Davis situation will be he'll be champ over there.
Yeah,
he's gonna get the belt over there
within 3 fights. I'll give him 3 fights.
I'll give him 3 fights because he's got a name.
I wonder if they'll put him against Tito. Do you think they'll put him against Tito? I mean, Joey Beltran got a title shot after 2 fights in Bellator, and
I think that not only is it probably in Coker's best interest to put him against Tito, I think that Tito's at a point in his career that he's lost sight of his abilities, and I think that Davis can beat Tito at this point in his career.
I don't know if Tito lost sight. I don't know.
I
just don't think that Tito's body.
Yeah, maybe he's just talking shit.
What his
Tito
mind.
Ortiz still talks like he can be a contender.
Yeah,
and I don't know if he believes that. I know a lot of fighters probably don't believe all the crap they say. But
if I had to go by,
I
agree with you. If I have to go by mannerisms, Tito still just suggests to me he's hungry, that he still can do something in this business.
Right.
I just don't think the body.
I don't doubt his mental or actual hunger to achieve. He's always been a contender. I don't doubt that for a second. I think when he talks like that, it's real.
It's his list of injuries.
Yeah,
he's
the idea that he can actually be a contender when he talks like that. Now that I don't believe. I like the way Rampage Jackson did it. I like the way he did it. He said, "Look, I don't really think I'm going to be a contender like that, but I'm going to be a fighter. I'm going to be a prize fighter. I'm going to be a draw," which he is.
He is.
So, I mean, I don't think we'll ever see Rampage fight for the belt. I don't think Rampage wants to fight for the belt. And I think I'm glad that we're going to see Rampage fight. Period. Can't say that about Tito. Tito hasn't really turned my gears as a fight fan, if you will.
And he still only fought maybe, 3 times total, I think, since he's moved to Bellator?
And who did he fight? He fought the roided up, who was it, Bonner?
He fought Bonner.
And Bonner was on so many roids. He looked like a fucking G.I. Joe toy. It was ridiculous.
He got called out by Shlemenko.
Right.
Who later on ended up coming up dirty in his title defense after that.
What is the opposite of a murderer's row of contention? Would that be the Skid Row of contention?
No. I don't know. I would say, that's like Skid Row.
Yeah, come on.
And I don't know. I'm still trying to figure out what Shlemenko was thinking. Did you see their weigh-in?
Get paid.
Did you see their weigh-in photo? It looked like a senior in high school facing a freshman in high school.
These guys are fighters, and even when they lose the ability to be contenders, they still want to fight, and I can understand that.
But he was the champion. How does a 185-pound champion?
He was a champ at that point.
Yeah, and he just randomly.
Well, the thing is, you don't lose certain things, I guess. His competition wasn't too stiff to get to that belt over there.
It was stiff enough for him to get in trouble and use roids because his very next title defense he lost
ancient. He's just ancient, dude. In terms of fighting, I
mean, Shlemenko?
His body is, yeah.
Oh, I didn't even know that much about him.
Yeah, his body is been through it. I think this guy's. I mean, he's in the high double digits, if not the triple digits, of how many fights he's had.
Wow.
I'm good. Both professionally and you know, on the up and coming circuits. This guy's been fighting for a while, and I believe he boxed for a while. I mean, he has been battered and bruised. When he came into the UFC, he came in with a huge wave of acquisitions, and he was one of the really good acquisitions because they were trying to expand. This is before the Ultimate Fighter or any of that stuff happened.
All I know is that you could go and get a syringe right now and juice me the hell up. It doesn't mean that I'm going to go and step outside that door and say that I can take on anybody in the light heavyweight division tomorrow.
Right.
Okay. And Shlemenko was immensely outmatched with Tito and size.
What does that tell you? Because I think that Tito is a good fighter. I think Tito is a good gatekeeper. But like I was saying, I don't think Tito is a contender. So what does it tell you when he mops the floor with the janitor? What does that tell you?
No, now you meant no.
Oh, right.
Shlemenko.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, but it doesn't say much for the middleweight division. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, I think there are a lot of their divisions over there are hurting. Oddly enough, I think Askren leaving hurt them more than they thought it would. And Askren is a boring fucking fighter. That's why no one wants to pick him up.
I don't understand how they could say that they're not the minor leagues when you have a 150-plus roster.
Well,
versus the UFC 500-plus roster.
Denial.
Okay, and then you put out fighter payouts. The disclosed to the commissions, and some of these guys went home with
getting paid
hundreds of dollars.
Yeah, there's something funny going on with their payouts over there if they want to contend.
How do you send somebody home with $400? How did he even pay for his camp?
He didn't.
I don't know. Like I said, to me, Bellator's becoming the bad side joke of MMA.
With the upcoming match between Kimbo Slice and
there's so
Shamrock.
there's just so many wrong things. It's almost like, it's almost like it's like they're the fantasy football of
I feel
MMA.
like that fight between Shamrock though and Kimbo, that's gonna be like a fucking train wreck. You gotta watch it. I gotta see how that turns out. I mean, I have firm belief that the old man Shamrock is gonna mop the floor with Kimbo and make him look as though he's got no skills because he doesn't. Dude's been fighting cans.
I think it's gonna be a sleeper.
Who do you think? Who you call?
I'm gonna give it to the younger of the two.
Kimbo Slice. You really think that Kimbo Slice? He's done nothing in his career.
I don't see anything in Shamrock that suggests to me that he's going to have an easy time.
I didn't say easy. But I think he's gonna. I didn't imply easy, and I'm gonna say easy. I am gonna say easy.
I think that Kimbo. I think more than anything, if they're paying Kimbo the money that Viacom supposedly says that they got and they got bank,
it's gonna be a decent pay-per-view.
If they pay him decent money, I think all his camp worked on him was the takedown defense.
And you think he's gonna be able to stop Shamrock's takedown?
I think Shamrock's going to tire himself out trying so hard.
I think Shamrock's going to power him down and keep him down. And it's just going to be a matter of powering him down.
Like Couture did to Tony?
Right. And just keep... Well, I don't think it's going to be quite as easy. It may.
Well, Petruzzi... Was it Petruzzi? Petruzzi, whatever his name was? Yeah, he was the one that gave Kimbo his first professional MMA career after he was eliminated from the Ultimate Fighter.
Yeah, came back,
and he did it with that grappling. He did it with the grappling.
Yeah,
and that's what Roy did too.
His grappling has never progressed, though.
Have you seen the size disparity between these two now?
Kimbo
is looking beast. He's looking beast, looking fit.
Yeah.
Not like a big boned like he did when he first.
Right.
Okay, he's looking fit. Now, number one, and number two, when they were standing in front of each other, I'm talking about you have to do Adobe Photoshop on the fixture in order to even make them look like they were standing at the same height. Really? So don't be fooled by those Bellator signs.
So Kimbo's a bigger guy?
Yeah, Kimbo's going to be the bigger of the two.
Shamrock's not small by any stretch of the imagination.
But Shamrock's going to at 52 years old, he's going to be totally dependent on skills.
What is Kimbo, 48?
Not strength.
What is Kimbo, 48?
Yeah, but a massive 48.
The accomplishments alone, because size is not everything. We all know this when it comes to the MMA game.
But he's honed in on his hands too in that boxing. Even though you don't
did you see who he was fighting? He didn't hone in on anything.
I know you were gonna go.
He did not hone in on a fucking thing. He honed in on a paycheck. Look, are you kidding me? It did. Some of those fucking punches, obviously, those knockouts didn't even land. Check it out on YouTube, kids. You guys don't believe me? Look at the fights Kimbo Slice was winning in Vegas while boxing. Literally 2 phantom knockouts, fighting a bunch of cans that nobody gave a damn about, that wouldn't get anywhere. And they were banking on the draw of Kimbo Slice because at this point, in my opinion, Kimbo Slice is like a Carnival Barker's dream. And Scott Coker's turning the Bellator, or at least Bellator is turning into.
Anything as far as bad did you complain on Bellator, blame it on Viacom. Rabney's gone, so you can't blame it on him anymore. You know what I mean? But ultimately, because everything in the beginning was Rabney's fault. Okay? Everything in the beginning was Rabney's fault. Yes, I said it. How do you say that it's a tournament format always, and you skip Patrick Ferrer, right? Patrick Pitbull Ferrer, he skipped him, I think, not 2 times, but at least almost 3 times, if not 3, because they wanted to promote Chandler. You underpromoted and basically undersold your present champion in Brooks.
Right.
Okay, let's not. Okay, but after you even let's go beyond the promotion part. But you came out and said that no matter what, nobody gets a title shot without going through the tournament. Then you switch it up and say that once you win a tournament, you don't have to go through it again in order to get a title shot.
Right.
Then you come out and say that. Well, no, actually, no. There was something before that, because the ultimate castration was that he said that you don't necessarily, I think the last one was saying that you did, once you won the tournament, you didn't have to do another tournament and you could get a title shot, which broke his business model. That's why Viacom, I know ultimately between the very lackluster shows and that nonsense, they kicked them. But where in the hell is it a smart business decision that you take away the company from somebody who's putting it into the ground and give it to somebody who already put their company in the ground?
You know what, though? Strikeforce was making better decisions than Bellator did.
You know why? Because Coker is a personable person.
Right. Okay.
I think, honestly, if I had to go from a vibe of the media and the vibe of his interviews and everything, Coker is a personable person. He knows how to work well with people in a business that's testosterone and totally, cutthroat filled. But to take the reins from somebody who's running it into the ground and to somebody who's already been documented to run their company into the ground, who physically broke their financial model by signing Fedor.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, there's a lot of promotional mismanagement going on that keeps them from really effectively developing the promotion. I think they're too worried about being competition rather than being their own show. Yeah, I mean, they're clearly the minor leagues. I think one of the things that shows they're the minor leagues is when you take a champion from Bellator, some of the champions that have gone from Bellator and moved into the UFC,
and
most recently Eddie Alvarez,
and all our cans that we get rid of,
right?
They pick them
up, right? Eddie, well, what I was saying, like with the thing is, they take these the champions that do make it or do get signed to the UFC, like most recently Eddie Alvarez. They come to the UFC and they're radically outclassed. Now, granted, Cowboy Cerrone's not a fucking slouch by any means. He's one of my favorite fighters of all time. Soon to be champ, if you ask me. But still, Alvarez was the champ. He was coming in strong. He might even been close to a fate. Was he favored?
No, actually, Alvarez had lost to.
That was his UFC debut. That was UFC debut. Alvarez Cerrone was Alvarez's UFC debut.
You know what it was? I think what happened was that I remember what it was. I think it was that Alvarez had the lawsuit. They settled, did the 2-fight stipulated, which was never really outright confirmed nor denied. But what was put out there was that he had a 2-fight contract with them. If he lost the first fight with Chandler, he would be let go free and clear, and he could pursue whatever he wanted.
Yeah.
If he won, he had to do one title defense.
Right, and that ended up being what he did.
Yeah, and then the UFC took him in.
Right, but my point being, Chandler Alvarez fights were fun and exciting. If you're a fight fan, and Mr. MMA doesn't watch Bellator as much as I do.
I watched those fights though.
They were exciting.
I couldn't because I knew that there was a genuine competitiveness between those two.
There was,
and it's always going to be interesting to see fighters who have fought each other before to see how they're going to fight now,
how they approach it.
Yeah,
and those were fun fights. But then
but I think that's the best they got.
I think that Cerrone Alvarez really showed the skill sets of some of the best fighters in Bellator. Really don't compare to someone who's in the top 10 at the UFC.
But now, could that be attributed to skill set, or could that be attributed to bank?
I say skill set. Look at how Eddie Alvarez was embarrassed. And he got paid more than Cerrone for that fight, matter of fact.
I think that that's where the difference in... Remember how we brought up on our showmanship episode? It's how you present yourself. And Alvarez, no matter what, was presenting himself as a beast in the cage. Everybody he was fighting, he was knocking them out. And this is a guy who's knocking him out. Everybody know his accolade is wrestling. It's very... And one thing we always question when we see fighters, especially coming from a wrestling background, are they going to also be able to evolve and learn the stand-up? Because sometimes the guys just stick to their bread and butter and never bother to really hone in on the other aspects of their sport, which is mixed martial arts, which is striking, So Alvarez was pummeling everybody he was putting, and he was looking like a diamond in the rough.
Well, this is what I'm saying. But ultimately, when that diamond get put into
he wasn't
the rougher
getting
environment,
but was that diamond getting paid like how UFC fighters were getting paid?
Yeah, but why would that matter when you're comparing the skill sets?
Because a lot of fighters and trainers also believe that a guy's performance is attributed. It's attributed to how your camp goes. How many training partners did you have? How well were you able to?
So what are you saying? He had more money with Bellator, and therefore
no, I think he had less.
So then
I think he had less money. So I don't think. I think that his skills. I think only because of bank account. I think that if he was making, I think that Alvarez would have been. I think Alvarez would have been more impressive. I don't think he was having the same type of camps that he's able to afford now, being a UFC fighter.
Before he fought Cerrone.
Yeah, okay. I don't think he was making the same, because remember the thing. From what I've gathered, most fighters want to have at least 2 to 4 sparring partners. Okay, and if you look at the disclosed payouts, okay, to the commissions, okay, we of course we can just we don't know what they were making on the side but if you look at these disclosed payouts, they're not even he wasn't even making barely a third. Look what they offered him coming into the UFC, 70 coming in. Even Bendo had to tweet, I'm the lightweight champion, and this dude's coming in making more money than me.
Did he end up making like $500,000 that night on that loss?
I don't remember how much total. I just know that when they put that contract out there, it was 70 to show up, 70 win, plus you got $1.50 for 200,000 plus pay-per-view buys, $2,
I think
400,000 plus.
The numbers were near $500,000 he made overall, including everything.
But that's what I'm saying. The thing is that if Alvarez, because the reason why I bring this up is a two-parter. One, because I don't feel that as much as Bellator and Viacom like to say they got bank, you sure not really showing it and shelling it out. And if you are, I don't know on what, because you're not extending your roster anywhere except for taking the UFC rejects. And it doesn't say much for your company when you take a guy who's on a 3-fight losing streak, Joey Beltran, comes in and faces Rampage to fill in on a last minute because Tito couldn't take the fight. Shocker there. I predicted that. And then he knocks out Beltran. And what's Beltran's next fight? Title fight against Emmanuel Newton.
Yeah.
Come on, man. That's not... how is there any way, shape, or form, any type of form of respectability for your roster at present, let alone to the MMA fans, what you're trying to sell them?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You just basically try to wrap up rubber dog shit and sell it to me as a great gag gift.
That's a tough call, calling it dog shit. I love to watch Rampage fight. And that's what they're going for. They're like carnival barkers trying to
sell you a sideshow. But I want to watch him fight a good fight. I don't want to.
I think Rampage.
That's like That's like it's I'm sorry for those people out there, because it's the only thing that came to mind. It's like that bait dog. They've been trying to stop right now in the animal cruelty when they take these dogs, whether it be a mutt or a good, and they just deliberately put it against a pit bull so he can shake it up, get his feet wet. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah. And I feel like they're bait dogs.
Yeah, and Joey Beltran was a bait dog.
Yeah, but I mean you could say that with a lot of the fights, they are lopsided and not well matched up. A lot of them are just name for name. Who's gonna put asses in seats? You know what I mean?
And they still didn't put in much.
I know. And they fucking paid Rampage for that.
They had to round up. They just looked at the things and just give him $200,000. And that's the worst part. I think you should have never said that on record. You could have kept that to yourself.
Yeah, Rampage is a fucking brilliant businessman with that one.
Yeah, the whole point is he swallowed his pride. He put whatever size sneaker he wears, he put it in his mouth. And he said it. He said that it's better the devil you know than the devil you don't. He regrets leaving the UFC and everything he said, about them. And I kind of knew it. I mean, how many people go through a 3-county car chase after losing the belt, and their boss comes out and bails them out?
But Rampage is one of those guys that just doesn't know when to stop talking for his own fucking good. I like Rampage. I like his personality. I love to see him in those movies kicking ass. I love Ms. B.A. Baracus and A-Team. I like to see his interviews because you don't know what that wacky bastard's going to say. You know what I mean? But it's like sometimes it's good to just have a filter. Rampage doesn't really have a filter when he talks, It's some funny shit.
So right now, like I said, it's hard for me to look at Bellator as anything but a sideshow of MMA. And, that business model that they broke with Fedor is going to be... what Coker did with Strikeforce, I'm waiting for that huge mistake to show itself in Bellator.
Well, I tend to think that the shows that they're putting on lately, just to reuse the term again, Carnival Barking, sideshow types of fights, these are money-making, money-grabbing. I hope they want to make these big purses and these big shows while they can, because they don't have many of them for you, to really improve their roster. I hope they're looking to get more money to improve. I don't know what the management's thinking over there.
I don't see it happening, dude. I just, like I said, it's there.
I think that fighters would rather go to World Series of Fighting, fight less regularly in a company that seems to actually have a decent roster at least, and guys who are picking guys out of nowhere who come in and put on a show for you. You don't know this guy's name. They're bringing up people that may one day be relevant.
But how frequently would you be fighting?
Right.
Once,
maybe,
you're lucky if you're
twice a year. Maybe at most.
How do you
no,
improve?
It's a tiny little.
Yeah. How do you improve? How could you ever say that you improve? How could you even gauge your improvement? You know what I mean? That's why everybody knows the best competitions in the UFC.
Look at the former light heavyweight champion of WSOF. When you look at Rumble Johnson. And you see, though he wasn't fighting as much, the kind of improvement that a dedicated fighter can make to himself, probably with camps and everything like you were saying. But the improvement is possible.
It took him 3.5 years to finally figure out he was at home at light heavyweight. But when I saw him hustling to make welterweight, I was already smacking myself in the head saying, what are you doing?
Right.
Because it was the same prediction off of the Lashley fight. Okay,
well, I mean, my point is,
Bobby. I knew Bobby Lashley when he finally got against a credible fighter that he was gonna gas out. And what happened? Your boy got like 20 freaking elbows,
right.
Gassed out.
I'm not saying he fought. I mean, we all know where the heaviest competition is in the sport. So obviously, World Series of Fighting does not have.
That's a vacation.
Well, my point being though that their depth is a little more skilled than Bellator.
You know what they're like?
In my opinion.
They're like the invitationals.
I don't know. If you want to call Bellator the sideshow, I would call World Series of Fighting the true minor leagues.
But the more like an invitational because it's so infrequent in the way they do their competition.
It's not unusual though. That's not unusual for mixed martial arts. And so like K1 or something like that, that's once a year, right? Twice a year. And so it's like the big tournament, the Ultimate K1 tournament. That's like They hold that every 9 months, every 10 months or something like that.
Well, because look how rigorous that was on the body.
But my point is,
World Series of Fighting is not fighting rigorousness. They're fighting budget. They don't have the money in bank like that to really put on the same amount of shows.
I know. I'm agreeing.
Right now, that was it. The CBS or NBC deal was a big deal.
They're real competition by any stretch of the imagination.
No. I agree with you in your statement. I would consider them minor league.
I like watching their fights because it's not crap fights like Bellator puts on. They've plucked out some unknowns that I couldn't even tell you their name today. But watching them is always entertaining. But and guys like Yushin Okami, guys like that you want to see fight and you want to see do well. They tend to drift toward World Series and not Bellator. The real fighters who really think that they have an opportunity and a career left really don't go to Bellator, which is surprising.
And I think Okami could actually get himself back into the UFC.
Into shape and that's kind of what my point. He's a fighter who really probably could go back into contention, and he could have easily went to Bellator. You and I both know that. He chose World Series of Fighting. He chose to fight less regularly in a depth pool that was more competitive and more respectable. You know what I mean?
I agree.
So, I mean, I think, and look, say what you want about Paul Harris, but again, he made the smart move in going to World Series of Fighting also. And a World Series of Fighting, ultimately, if they run...
He could have gone anywhere and been good. He could have gone anywhere.
But my point is
I think he went
World
with
Series
Bellator
of Fighting, to the fight fans who know World Series of Fighting is going to give you competitive fights. Even if you don't think the Jake Shields-Paul Harris fight is as competitive as it could be...
no, that's going to be really... It's going to be competitive. I just think that...
much better, much more interesting than
Jake's
anything...
going to be in deep water.
Jake's going to be in deep water.
Deep water.
And Paul Harris...
And unless he comes in that fight looking prison brolic like Paul Harris does...
You know what I'm going to tell you? If Paul Harris doesn't get popped for using some kind of performance enhancer, and for you guys who want to know more about performance enhancers... Check out our podcast on performance-enhancing drugs.
Truth about.
Yeah. Yes. But if Paul Harris doesn't get popped for performance enhancers, he might find his way back into the UFC.
I don't know. I think too many people talk bad about him.
But he's changing people's perspective. He's a good champion over there at World Series. He really is. He's a good champion over there.
And Cepho said it. He said that the minute he does that shit, he's gone.
Right.
And so far he's been
towing the line for the company. Yeah. He's been watching himself. He's been being very careful about his technique. The man is a technician without a doubt. He's got a skill set that might be unparalleled, but he doesn't have an off button or a control switch.
I don't think it's about the off button. I think it's his power. I just don't. Some people just don't like. Hey, once in a while, playing around with the wife. We get into the hand play, and one little smack in the ass, she turns around, gives me the daggers in my eyes because I didn't know my own strength.
Right.
Sometimes you just don't know your own strength.
It's a part of a professional fighter.
And people want him to show restraint on his submissions, but it's that quickly that if you show restraint that you either get reversed or they miss the tap. Or the ref's missing
yourself in a fight. Which you really don't want to do.
I think it's that if you look at Paul Harris's build, I'm sorry, the boy looks like he's fresh out of doing time.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be shocked if he's not banged up for something. That can't be natural. It really can't be. He looks like one of the masters of the fucking universe.
I will not be surprised. Like I said, after listening to a lot of fighters on the topic of PEDs,
look at Hector Lombard.
78%. I believe at least 3/4 of MMA fighters out there have you in some way, shape, or form. And they're
just finding these new ways, these clever ways to get around the tests.
I am no one to judge. Sure
you are. Judge them.
I'm going to give my opinion. My opinion is exactly like Conor McGregor's. If you in any way, shape, or form feel that you have to use those things to maintain competitiveness in your division or in the fight that's upcoming, you lack confidence in yourself.
Absolutely. And I think that's one of the things I really like about some of the more recent cards, especially after the big laydown of the rules of PEDs changing so much and the intolerable things that came out like TRTs. I like watching these guys fight because they look like regular guys now. They look like real fighters. And the guys who train really hard and like dehydrate themselves. You can see it in their skin and in their face that these guys have trained naturally. It's a natural kind of physique that they're building now. I like watching it. I think Chris Weidman, for one, is one of those fighters where you look at him and you're like, now there's a natural fighter. He doesn't look like he's juicing.
And now you hear about supposedly Belfort had a dislocated shoulder coming into the fight. Yeah, I heard about
that. But you know what? Listen, I saw those punches he was throwing in the open, and they came fast and hard. It didn't seem to bother him then.
Okay, and I still want to ask you people out there, how does a guy at 38 years old, off of TRT, come in with double the testosterone levels of his 8-year younger opponent?
Right. And just like I said with Rumble, it's a good thing Rumble didn't win that because he's got a little bit of dirt in his past. It's kind of a good thing that Vitor Belfort did not win because we all know he's on some kind of crazy chemical.
No, and the crazy part, he made $300,000 off the fight.
He's also got.
I could have sworn that the NAC's. My impression from the NAC's punishment and stipulated licensing of him, I thought it was a way to discourage him from further competition. It was a way of them telling him out, in an implied way.
$300,000 was only what was disclosed, also.
Yeah, so think about it. And that's what's worse because that means this man's he's gonna do another Dan. He's gonna do a Dan Henderson.
Yeah.
He's gonna stay in. Yeah, you know what I mean. Staying when you should just let it go already.
Belfort, he won in a time of change. The sport, and that's one of the reasons I love MMA.
What are we talking about? Did he win? Because I know you're not talking about his 3 victories before he fought Weidman.
When he won the light heavyweight belt in his youth.
Because I'll tell you right now, because those 3 victories that he had on Bisping, Belfort, and Hendo.
Yeah, no, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about he was juiced, right?
Was the TRT was still on.
Yeah, if you look.
And I thought that was even poetic justice. They tried to give him Henderson. They were like, you know what, Mr. TRT, we're gonna give you a guy who's on TRT too. And Hendo couldn't pull it out, and I was pulling for Hendo.
Yeah, so was I. But I mean, slow ride into the sunset, like we said. Guys on a slow ride. But, you look at the Vitor Belfort that won the light heavyweight belt, and you look at the Vitor Belfort who just contended for the light heavyweight belt, and I know everybody ages and what have you, or whatever, middleweight belt. And I know everyone ages and everything, and Vitor looks like he's aged appropriately, but he also looks like he has been doing drugs for a very long time. He looks like a guy who wore his body out, wore himself out.
It was painfully obvious when, look, all you have to do is do one simple thing. You look at any video or still image of Vitor Belfort or Dan Henderson or Antonio Bigfoot Silva when they were in Pride, and you look at them when they got acquisition by the UFC, and the size difference is ridiculous, okay? I mean, does nobody remember that Pride had 250 plus contracts, and the UFC only absorbed about 120 to 125 plus?
Right.
Why did they take in all the others?
Well, there was
it because of bank? No, it's because these dudes weren't cleaning up their act.
Also, let's be honest, Pride was very, very corrupt. A lot of these fighters were in with criminals over in Japan, and they were not eligible for good business practices to be absorbed into the UFC. Let's call a spade on that one.
But beyond the back check, though, let's be honest. Did you see their physiques?
Right. No, you're right.
Everybody over there was juicing.
They all look like luchadores instead of actual fighters.
Like we're straight from Venice Beach.
Yeah.
I remember when Belfort. Remember when Belfort had skinny calves versus his whole upper body? His neck was thicker than his calves.
Do you remember when Belfort looked like a human being?
Okay.
What about that? Jeez.
So that's it. I mean, ultimately, I like I said, it's just a lot of guys out there that they need to realize that it's time to move on to the next endeavor in their life, and there's a lot of guys in the UFC that even when they get released, I think they're gonna still find their home, or find a home in promotions like Bellator. I would hate to say World Series of Fighting, but
why would you hate to say that?
Because
you want them to fight frequently.
If their curtain is already supposed to fall,
right,
then don't even go to another company.
Good point. Especially not one where people are actually aggressive and hungry and skilled.
Okay, right. Yeah, because that's a good point. You're just gonna get more demolished.
Yeah.
And now you just look money grubbing.
Yeah.
And right now, if you really love this sport and you truly honor this sport, then start helping the next generation.
I think that's one of the reasons why you saw Henderson's getting paid in his most recent losses and everything. He is walking away with good paychecks, and I think that is a way for the UFC to entice him to maintain loyalty, kind of like they did the Iceman, kind of like they do Hughes. Certain guys, the UFC want to be part of the UFC's overall legacy, and I think that Dan Henderson is one of those fighters. They really don't. I don't think.
As long as he's not acting like a prima donna.
Well, the thing is, I don't think they want him to fight. I can't imagine that if he loses this upcoming fight, anybody, anywhere wants to see Dan Henderson fight again for exactly the same reason you were just saying. Because
unless you're having like a elderly's.
Yeah, but I do think that the UFC want to use him or at least keep him in the family, possibly as a scout, recruiter, part of matchmaking. Any of the myriads of things.
Because they haven't even used him in the they've used Bisping before they used him in the
Bisping's charismatic, man. Come on. Henderson is a little bit of a fucking behind the scenes kind of talker.
Well,
he's not too much.
But he's also intelligent. He's
smart, but he's not like the Bisping where he's charismatic and handsome and he's a little like a fighter kind of smart. You know what I mean?
And Hendo looks like he might actually start a fight at the podium.
Yeah, right. He's not. it's like the Kennedy Nixon thing. You know, he's just not that great on camera. Not taking anything away from Henderson and his abilities to speak, his intelligence or anything. He's just not a camera guy. And I would say the same thing about Chuck the Iceman. And I love fucking Iceman.
Yeah, they definitely put him in front of the camera. They just let him wait.
But see, Iceman's still with the organization. He's still working. He's still making a paycheck.
Yeah. And Chuck, you stay off the red meat or whatever it is you're doing, bro. You're starting to get a gut. I seen it.
Listen, that's living well, baby. Chuck, if you want to fucking knock out a gut, you knock out a gut. You've knocked out enough things in your life, so I believe in you, buddy. Knock that out, too. Fuck this guy. Mr. MMA doesn't know everything, Chuck.
I'm just saying, you looking a little plump.
Yeah, that's probably good eating.
I gotta admit
You never see Chuck Liddell with an ugly chick.
If you need me to run with you, I'll run with you.
Just holla.
You know?
The Way In, MMA on Facebook, baby.
But it's gonna be, like I said, the last 6 weeks have been a great. Right, yeah, about 6 weeks now have been awesome cards. The Manila card was awesome. It was great to see a Fight Pass fight get performance of the night bonuses. I think that's a great way to promote the Fight Pass, let alone tell people, hey, you're missing out on fights if you're not tuning into this too.
Unfortunately, I don't watch the fight night. I love Invicta. And my Nostradamus dream is that Invicta will ultimately, if they can get it through with trade commissions, be absorbed into the UFC.
But I don't want to see that because then what happens to Nap? Her company goes. She makes no money. Where's she gonna go after that? What's she gonna do? The UFC's not gonna absorb her too.
Here's my idea.
I got a feel for the. Right. I got a feel for the
promoter.
Yeah.
But here's my dream of that. Now listen to how great this sounds. Okay. Imagine if they're already working behind the scenes and they're planning on absorbing Invicta tomorrow and making a big announcement. Now imagine, right? And your same scenario. What happens to her? The trade goes through. She becomes disgustingly rich, right? And the women finally get to play on the big stage in the big show. Now, what does she do? Right? Imagine this. What promotion could really use her? Let's think about it. World Series of Fighting. Imagine a woman like her joining that organization.
But why?
Just because if she really wants...
I'm going to ask you... Perfect question.
Yeah.
Perfect question to pose to this argument. Who do you want to work for? Yourself or someone else?
Right. Well, that entirely depends. If someone decided to purchase my independent endeavors or my skill sets or what have you,
and you were making more money than the business you own,
let's say 200 million, 300 million, 400 million, whatever the value of Invicta would go at, which is probably, I'm underballing it, right? But now, someone opted to pay that out, and then I'd have to be subordinate to someone for hundreds of thousands of dollars while already having and hoarding and harboring the millions from my sale. Yeah, because she could ultimately become partner and become, who knows what would develop from that for her, because she's a smart person.
I just still think that's a downgrade.
It's a downgrade in terms of job, but it's an upgrade in terms of life.
It's only an upgrade as far as tax
Finances,
bracket.
Yeah,
okay. It's only an upgrade as a tax bracket.
Hey, this is America, baby. What do you expect? It's capitalism, baby, at play.
I think you just described what you don't mind going through.
Give me the money.
But honestly,
you don't think she would do it because she wants this.
Think about it. She's already taking a risk. She's taking a huge risk on a sport that's still up and coming.
Yeah, but
she's taking girls in on a division that no one else has until now. Okay, think about it. If it wasn't for her, the UFC, I don't even think would have thought of a strawweight division.
No. The strawweight division in Invicta's looking so good. It's looking so
good. The UFC
UFC
would have never even considered it if it wasn't for her. You know what I mean? So that's what I'm saying. It would be like her taking a pay downgrade.
If you were to with Invicta, WSOF, Bellator, UFC,
I think she's got I think whatever arrangement she's got now, because there had to be some type of financial arrangement. They took 20 of their fighters for that Ultimate Fighter. They took 20 of her fighters, and she did it with a happy face. Right. So let's be honest. She had to be financially compensated.
But this is what I'm saying. And what's to keep her from completely...
And she's getting compensated.
Is it selling out or is it buying in?
Honestly, I think it's buying in.
Right. So that's my point.
I think she's the perfect minor league for the women's. So the money they give her,
she's not selling out. She's buying, and she's letting them buy into her.
No. Yeah, but I don't think she should sell the company. In other words, she can stay with her entity because her entity is a recruiting pool. You understand? It's a beautiful recruiting pool for the UFC.
If you had to put into some kind of rank all of the promotions we just spoke of, WSOF, Bellator, Invicta, and UFC, how would you rank them from 1 to 4 in terms of quality of promotion?
Okay, obviously UFC would go number 1, and not just because they got better money. They got
better fighters.
Dana White, but
fighters want to fight for the UFC.
Hold on, but you got to remember, everybody has to remember that the UFC started out as a one-day tournament for 60 G's.
That's why you can't shit on the World Series of Fighting. World Series of Fighting is very young.
A lot of people need to remember that Dana White used to be the Bruce Buffer.
That's right.
Not Ed
McMahon, but Vince McMahon of it all.
You know what I'm saying? Of the UFC. Okay, so the thing is that what they did with this company.
It's impressive.
And deserves nothing but props.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying? So what I like about Invicta is that obviously the UFC sees that because number one, they don't talk shit about them. They don't try to drill them into the ground, and they give them free airtime on the UFC Fight Pass.
Really, they're not their competition. Invicta's got all weight classes. UFC's got
because
2.
they're a recruiting pool. Right. It's an awesome recruiting pool.
They don't see themselves as competition like Bellator.
But what kills it is that since World Series of Fighting, since Invicta is an all-women's promotion, it's hard to put it on that 1 to 4 scale. I think that with UFC being number 1, World Series of Fighting and Invicta kind of fight for the second place.
Okay, I would agree with that only because World Series of Fighting, like I said earlier, talent pool is more stacked. Invicta has some good talent, but they've got more fighters.
And they got both genders. They don't. Yeah, you remember they still got both genders, and that's why Invicta ties because Invicta just stays right. It's just with the females, But we need that right now because we need these.
So I guess there's no 1 to 4. It's just 1, 2, and then Bellator.
You know what I'm saying? That's it, and it's painfully obvious.
Yeah, it's sad. But it's not, I don't know if it's sad because, like I say, I like the Carnival sideshow aspect of it.
It's the business decisions that to me are sad. It's like
ruining themselves.
Dude, it's like you're trying to sell me, broccoli flavored ice cream.
It's like they want to pretend like they want to do something different. They want to pretend like they're not the B leagues, but then they do something exactly the same, but on a real low-level B-League way.
Yeah.
And then they're mismanaged, grossly mismanaged.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, don't get me wrong. There were times when I first played the very first UFC game, And figuring out the controls was a pain in the ass. But, chilling with my friends, sitting down, drinking a beer, we used to actually go into the options. We were like, yo, who do you want to see fight? We put the highest difficulty on there, and we would choose, Nate Diaz versus, Donald Cerrone, and just watch the computer go at it and see who would pull out the fight.
Yeah.
That's what Bellator's giving me that impression. Like, they're just a fantasy MMA company. Like, hey, you wanted to see this fight and this fight? Well, guess what? Tune in on this date, and we'll actually give it to you.
I think that the troubling thing is there's no real comparison in combat sports for the type of promotion that Bellator is. They're pretty unique in their own how they do their thing. That's not to say that that's a good thing. Unique, I'm not qualifying that as a positive word.
Look, whether the UFC greased palms or not, these guys, Lorenzo, Frank, and Dana, put in their blood, sweat, and tears and legwork to get the UFC to where it is now. And I give them nothing but accolade and nothing but gratefulness, because I love this sport. Yeah. I love watching this sport.
And let's be fair about it. Would there really be a World Series of Fighting? Would there really be an Invicta? There will probably be a Bellator, because they kind of jumped on the train early. And let's remember, when Bellator jumped on the train, they were doing fights with a similar regularity as World Series of Fighting does them now.
And they were beating out Strikeforce's ratings.
When because they had the tournament format. Yeah. That was really, but that's when they were solid on the format.
Because they were bringing back that pride.
Right, the pride feel. Now it's almost like a joke feel.
Yeah. And that's what killed it. And I can understand why Viacom was like, yeah, Rabney, you're not gonna kill our money.
Right.
Yeah, I'm sorry, we gotta let you go. But if ultimately, if it was like the NBA. The NBA does the draft, right? That the more horrible teams of the previous season get more picks in the jar.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, now if that was the case with these promotions,
Bellator would get all the good fighters.
Or at least would have some that we wouldn't look at them as not even. Come on, let's be honest. We're not even calling them the B League. We're calling them the Carnival Shooters.
Yeah,
they're the Ringling Brothers of freaking MMA.
Yeah, they really are.
So if at least. If it's already overloaded, hugely overloaded, all the top 15 fighters in the world for any division, at least 8 are in the UFC.
Yeah. That's true. And even the fighters that are well known and claim to be, UFC is such a force in the sport that they can claim their fighter Gustafsson.
Hey,
they could claim he's in the top.
I don't even like Askren, but I have to give Askren his credit.
You got to give Askren his credit because he's a very skilled fighter. He's a boring as shit fighter,
but he's in the top 15 of lightweights in the world.
But he'll never see the champion's ideal of winning because one.
He coasts.
Yeah, he's like a guy. He's like a fucking.
He doesn't mind being a wet t-shirt.
He reminds me of a pickpocket who decides to defend himself in court. Just shut up, let somebody else talk for you, and you don't know what's going on all the time. You know what I mean? And I think that he just ruins himself thinking that he knows what's going on with the fight game and the promotional game and everything.
Ultimately. What I have to see more than anything is Bellator needs to stop the circus acts.
Yeah, what they really need is what World Series of Fighting has is a bunch of fucking high-level recruiters who know what they're looking for. That's what they need. And I don't know for a fact that World Series of Fighting has that, but by the depth of talent they have, I assume it.
That was Viacom's message. That was supposedly what they said of why they fought in Coker because of his contacts.
Their acquisitions are like, UFC gets better acquisitions to run on their streaming site.
That's another thing too. If you haven't noticed, some of the top tier talent that they acquired didn't perform well either. King Mo, Rampage.
These are all leftover talent, though. This is not new talent.
King Mo's not leftover.
Yes, he is.
No,
He was leftover from the UFC. He was in the UFC. Look, he got tossed out.
King Mo, if you listen to this, bro, if you check this out, bro, no matter what, I love you as a fighter, dude. I hate that you came up cheating for roids. Okay, that I saw that Lorenz Larkin fight. You knocked him the hell out. I was rooting for you on that fight. You don't know how stupid you made me look coming up dirty. And I still agree with that. That insecurity nonsense.
It's a matter of a big fish in a small pond. Like, we know about the depth of Bellator. We just talked on length about the depth of Bellator.
But the only reason why King Mo is not in the UFC, okay, and I'm gonna speak.
Can't hang. Dude.
No. See, I am defending you, King Mo. Here we go. Okay, number one reason why King Mo is not in the UFC. That Strikeforce fight that he came up dirty wasn't what killed him. It was calling that female commissioner on the Nevada State Athletic Commission a bitch, who I think you are. Right, I won't call you a bitch, but you are the dumbest.
The bitchiest.
Dumbest.
And the bitchiest.
Okay? How the hell are you going to go and ask Nick Diaz why he uses marijuana? He tells you because it helps him focus during jiu-jitsu. And you say, well, that makes it a performance-enhancing drug. I mean, do you not look at the medical reports? Do you not look at the definition of what a PED is? If not, you know what? Tune into my Truth About episode. I'll break it down for you. Okay? But bottom line is, that female commissioner, and of all the things that I bothered to commemorate to Mary, I dislike this woman so much, I bothered not to commemorate her name to memory. But he called her a bitch. But he called her a bitch for good reason.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Let's be honest.
And the UFC,
you
let him go for that.
You want to praise King Mo, and King Mo deserves his fans.
King Mo would be in the top 10 right now. King Mo was beat
by Rampage Jackson, who freely admits he doesn't want to be fighting top 10 guys.
Okay, he got beat by Rampage in his hometown. Okay, did you not watch the Norman Park Francisco Trinaldo fight this weekend?
Yeah.
Because Park got hosed. Okay, they stuck
it out pretty strong.
They stuck it to Park without grease. Okay, because that fight was his. I had him winning.
Yeah.
And you know how many people tweeted that they had him winning rounds 1 and 3?
I had him winning also. But...
I had him winning rounds 1 and 3.
What are you saying is that it was a bad call for Mo Rampage? That was not a bad call.
That was a bad. He won that fight. Rampage didn't do any. That wasn't a glass half full, half empty. That wasn't a 51-49. That wasn't like a 50.5 plus a 50. You know what I mean? Like a 49.5 shit. Okay, it was clear cut. Okay, don't get me wrong.
What about Mo getting beat by Muhammad Lawal?
No. You know this will help you. You know what will help you make agreement? The Masvidal Iaquinta fight.
That was a good fight.
Okay, but what happened? Why did Masvidal? Didn't you and I agree that Masvidal lost that fight because he might have coasted a little bit too much?
Yeah.
And I think that
because he did so well initially.
Yeah.
And he just
And that's what King Mo did. And and every MMA fighter knows the rule. Whether you watch UFC Ultimate Fighter, you know what I'm saying? Every MMA fighter knows the rule. Don't leave it in the hands of the judges. Okay, and I'll say it for them because most of those motherfuckers are blind. Okay, I don't know what fights they were watching, but they needed my glasses when they were watching.
There were some questionable fucking
calls. You know what I mean? Yeah. So ultimately, I honestly feel that if King Mo, regardless of the bitch comment, because I thought that was well entitled. If he thinks she's a bitch, she's a bitch. You know what I mean? What does that have to do? This is another thing too. We focus our society and our government so that no one has absolute power. But yet these athletic commissions and the way the promotions treat them, it's almost like they do. Like they need to kiss their ass.
In all fairness to the promotions, though, it's in a strive for legitimacy to be really taken seriously.
But I don't kiss anyone's ass.
Right.
I'll lose my job tomorrow if I still feel that something's wrong. I'm gonna say my piece. You can write me up on insubordination, whatever the case may be.
But in a situation like we're discussing, though, this is a multi-million, literally hundreds of millions of dollars at play here for these owners. And it's ultimately a business.
And what's the commission gonna do just because one fighter called the commissioner on the thing a bitch?
Right. Well,
how is that how does that affect the rules of the game? Except for the conduct. Except for the code of conduct.
When it comes to interaction, favoritism doesn't hurt. Yeah, so if they wanted to gain some favoritism by NSAC by releasing him, which I'm sure was maybe
I think they released him because number one, he's not an elegant speaker on the camera. He's actually worse than Nick and Nate Diaz.
And I think he's delusional about his skill set.
Yeah, the man's skill set is nasty. Like I said, his wrestling, his hand skills. Your boy,
he's good, but he's not as good as he thinks he is.
Let me put it to you this way. Honestly, I wouldn't have been surprised if King Mo would have shown up like Kimbo Slice as an internet, fight club sensation. Okay, because I've noticed that a lot of wrestlers, when they try to get into MMA, their hand skills always end up lacking. Their skill sets never match. His striking matches his grappling expertise. I trust that man wherever the fight is. If the fight's on the standing, I'm confident he can hold his own. If the fight's on the ground, I'm confident he can hold his own.
Hold his own at Bellator.
Okay, but if you put the camera on him and let him use his mouth, shit. Fuck.
Game over.
Why did I do that?
And that seems to be the case with a lot of MMA fighters have
that back problem. To that female commissioner on the Vada State Athletic Commission, okay?
We're burning it today, bitch.
Yeah, I didn't forget.
That's right, I called you a bitch. What are you going to do, suspend me?
I didn't forget your ass. Okay, you coming out and hitting, I forgot what it was she condescended to King Mo. She condescended in such a manner that was unprofessional, was uncalled for, and it was totally unnecessary because in the end you established nothing. There was only two things you were supposed to speak of.
Well, that's not true. She established her authority.
In other words, she flexed her cock. She wanted to show she had a bigger dick.
And sometimes in the fight game, that's what you do.
But we're not
pull your cock out.
But we're not fighting.
And you weigh it.
But we're not fighting. We're at a hearing.
But people so close to the fight game often get so caught up. I mean, look at Bruce Buffer, the announcer. When he first started announcing, he looked like an announcer. Now, if you look at Bruce Buffer without his shirt, he looks like Yardkeeper Willie. He looks like the Yardkeeper Willie from Simpsons. He just takes that shirt off and he's ripped. And so people around the fight game, they want to emulate the fight game. They want to be part of the fight game.
Bruce Buffer, I want to be you.
Really, Bruce Buffer's got the job. He's got the job. So she's like, might be got a little caught up right there.
I think that not even caught up. She got power hungry.
Yeah,
I think that
maybe.
The Nevada. Let me put it this way: if it wasn't
she was fed.
If it wasn't plainly apparent that the NAC has been stepping over their boundaries, okay, in just personal opinion.
Yeah.
The overturning of their judgment for Vanderlei Silva definitely confirms it.
You think that?
Vanderlei Silva's that $70,000 fine and the lifetime ban.
He had a huge legal team on that.
It's not about legal team. It was plain and simple. That's one thing I love about the government. As much as you might not want to be the defendant, at least you know how the game works and what you're up against. The bottom line was they went above and beyond their jurisdiction, and he's still fighting it because ultimately the judge never addressed it on Vanderlei Silva's lawyers what he said on their terms. They never addressed the fact of jurisdiction. All their wording and their punishment can be laid down for a licensed fighter. Okay. Vanderlei wasn't licensed. This was all in the procedure to get his licensing. There is a significant difference.
There's a huge difference.
Just like there's a significant difference between in competition and out of competition.
Okay.
I hate the fact that it's a 12-hour window.
Right.
But there is a difference. So there's a line in the sand.
To change speeds just a little. What do you think? Will Vanderlei Silva fight again? And do you want to see him fight again? And what's your opinion on whether he should fight again?
If I take Vanderlei Silva at his word, at the way he has projected himself in his career, I am going to take him for his word that right now he is retired and he is now focusing on helping the fellow fighter.
So I guess he's just fighting it so that he doesn't have to come out of pocket.
He doesn't have anything more to prove.
Well, Wanderlei definitely doesn't.
Vanderlei, in his day, come on, this man comes from bare knuckle soccer.
In his day, he was the real definition of a bitch's bastard. I mean, you did not want to go toe to toe with the axe murderer in Pride because anything could have happened.
Vanderlei Silva's the man I could say on the planet I would want to be my best friend. That is the baddest man on the planet.
Yeah.
And nobody has anything bad to say about this man. Maybe Chael Sonnen, but even then they kind of resolve their differences.
Yeah,
Vanderlei Silva has conducted himself as best as we can see with honor.
Yeah.
Even when he walked away from the test.
But then he
even if he walked away from the test, why did he walk away? Because I didn't want to come up dirty. At least he was honest.
Away. I saw the video. The dude broke stride. He ran away.
Because did you see you saw the video? Did you also see the vibe? That no matter what, we weren't going to take no for an answer.
Yeah.
I mean, and technically,
kind of Gestapo.
And let's be honest, when the man tells you, "I cannot read English well,"
right?
That I want my attorney present.
Right. What are you doing?
Okay, come on. He's not entitled to that. He's not entitled to. I mean, don't get me wrong. We're not trying to say the commission's trying to get over on him. But
we're also not trying to say they're not trying to flex their muscles again.
Exactly. So the whole point is that the ruling in the court shows that they can't go overboard. Now you have to ask yourself, if they went overboard in this situation and it had to be put into court, appealed in court for it, what's to say other decisions that they've made in the past weren't as equal, if not worse?
And I think the UFC wants to curry favor, so they don't.
There's another thing. This marijuana nonsense. Yeah. Now 3 strikes and you're out. 100% lifetime ban. 100% purse can be pulled. Okay, you still have it on a performance enhancing drug list. Come on, people. Let's not kid ourselves. It's just a banned substance. Okay, or make a new topic. We're fucking. Everything we make is in some way, shape, or form made to be amended. Make a new list. Okay, illegal drugs. If the police don't allow it, we don't allow it.
Yeah.
Okay, but don't say it's a performance enhancing drug when everything medically proven has shown that it isn't.
Right. Well, yeah.
And when you're catching these fighters on it, it's in metabolite form. It went through their system already. In no way, shape, or form can you prove that at the time the fighter was fighting, he was high.
And we cover all of this, guys, on our PED show. You guys should check it out if you haven't seen it
so
yet.
You know what I mean? So that's what I'm saying. So how many other abuses has NAC done up until this point? Until we finally had a man of at least good, regardless of how you look at the running away from the drug, the drug test situation.
Yeah.
Everything else up to this man's career suggests.
I mean, he's a living legend. Really.
Yeah. Come on. Never come up dirty. Never. Come on. You know how hard it is to have a perfect record in the medical science? Even A-Rod couldn't pull it off, and your boy was paying through the nose for it.
Yeah, but he was
Vandally,
also... He didn't get caught through testing. He got caught because a company got caught. And he was in their records. So, again, there's so many different fucking drugs that won't show up for because they're not tested for,
If Vanderlei shows up, I don't think anybody can afford him. I don't think World Series of Fighting could afford him.
No, I mean, if he fights again, he'll probably fight for a sport fight.
I don't think
against
Bellator,
Rampage Jackson or something.
And that's UFC. And that's the and technically, he's still contracted by the UFC.
Right.
But he said he won't fight for them anymore.
Well, we'll see. Who knows?
They killed the love in him.
I think. Toward the latter part of his career, he had more money than he had sense. To be honest with you,
but
running up and down those stairs with a fucking snorkel on and shit like that.
But he's never flip flopped.
No.
He's never said, "I'm tired of fighting. I'm done," and then come back.
Right.
The man put out 2 videos to tell you straight to his face. The first one, he was almost tearing. He had the water in his eyes.
Didn't he get completely wrecked by Franklin in Brazil?
No.
On a late notice?
No. Hold on. Yeah, no. His last fight was against Kung Lee.
Yeah, but before
I think his last fight was...
he fought Franklin.
No, he fought Brian Stan and knocked his ass out too.
Yeah, but Franklin, I remember Franklin fighting him on a short term or a short notice fight.
Wow, I just have to put in WA on the UFC website.
Franklin was supposed to fight Kung Lee. And it was outside with a different promotion.
35-12-1.
Yeah.
That means that this man is guaranteed to win 3 times at least before he takes his first L.
Yeah.
That doesn't even include all the wins that he's had in other promotions. 35-12-1. No, let's go. let's look at this record.
Yeah, no, I think
as
that
the UFC has it.
Rich Franklin really buckled him, and that's when I thought it was over.
Actually, you're right.
Yeah.
But it wasn't a knockout.
Notice.
It was a unanimous decision.
Yeah, but he
still went the distance.
Beating. It was a solid beating, though. I remember that.
Yeah, and then what happened to Franklin right after?
He got beat by Kung Lee, whom he was training for. And somehow the UFC managed to stop the Kung Lee Franklin fight from another promotion, get Franklin to fight Wanderlei on a short notice, and then absorb Kung Lee and make the Kung Lee Franklin fight that had been promoted for months happen for the UFC. It was a brilliant piece of fucking business work. I don't know how they managed that. But
I mean, he was winning. He was winning, losing. That
was the last fight Franklin had, though, with Kung Lee, right? I think that was it. He called it curtains after that. I mean, he might still be competing.
No, technically, he could fight again. He's under contract still, but right now he's been focusing on his juicing company. He started a juice store. Yeah. Somewhere, I forgot where. I don't know if it's in California.
He's a smart guy.
He was a teacher before he came in.
Yeah, math teacher at that.
But after it goes, that's why I said. That's why I hate these politicians that are calling it a brutal sport made for ex-cons or dudes that couldn't make it. Do they not realize that Clenny Florian has a PhD? That most of these fighters that we're watching doing analysts on are college graduates.
I think
economics, business, engineering. Like, you know what I mean? Like, come on.
I think that some of the people saying those things aren't
the
familiar.
most ignorant.
Yeah, they're not familiar with the sport or the fighters that they're talking about.
No, they're familiar with the sport. Only the brutality of it.
Well, I mean, then you're not really familiar with the sport.
But now we're talking semantics. How well are they familiar with the sport?
Well, that's what I'm talking about.
Okay, you know what I mean? Because the thing is that they could get, while they were familiarizing themselves, that bias could have kicked in, and then boom, everything else was shut off after that. You know what I mean? Which is one of the reasons why this MMA ban has been ridiculous. I could have sworn the reason why we came up with the terminology, the city that never sleeps for New York, was because we were always what? Making money. No matter what time of night, we were making money. Okay, the stock market might be closed over here, but guess what? It just opened up in Japan. You know what I mean? Like
nobody wants to invest in Japanese stock right now.
But that was the thing. And then New York is going to be the last state to jump on the bandwagon. That's why I'm so glad that Sheldon Silver is.
Yeah, good riddance to that fuck.
Yeah, we definitely tune in soon. We definitely did our MMA ban episode. If you guys are not totally familiar with that, we definitely want you guys to tune in because we get familiarized with the whole reason why that came down and why New York is last on this bandwagon. Yeah. So we won't even divulge more into this. We'll just leave it at that Sheldon Silver indictment nonsense.
Yeah. I mean, we're filming this, or rather we're recording this on the last day of May. Tomorrow's June 1st. And so we should have that show, The Truth About MMA in New York, up before the 2nd of June for you. So just, stay tuned and check that out because we go in depth as to why there's no MMA in New York and what's going on and what the possibilities in the future are.
And don't forget, let us know. Hit us up. I know my tag at Twitter is a little bit hard to describe, but I'll put
so
it
long.
Out there. Yeah, I'm somewhat technical savvy, but these new social medias, they have so many different options and so many different menus. You never it's hard to figure out exactly where your option that you're looking for is at.
Yeah, that's true.
Hey, definitely tune in, guys. Definitely hit us up because we definitely respond. We would love your input.
Yeah.
And we're trying to get this out there, man.
And if you guys really like fighting, if you guys really like to watch the UFC,
and martial
you guys
arts,
should watch the UFC and have the Facebook page, which is The Way In MMA, on Facebook up because Mr. MMA interacts live with the audience. He tweets live. He talks to the fighters. What fighters did you talk to this weekend? So I mean, they
Stefan Bonner, T. Woodley. I definitely talked with Dave Doyle from MMA Fighting. Jeff Wagenheim, awesome dude. He's mad funny too. Yeah. Whoever it is at Bloody Elbow, man, you awesome, man. Because we go back and forth favoriting each other's comments like crazy.
Well, my point is for you guys out there, you guys can join this conversation too. That's what the weigh-in is all about. We want you to weigh in as well as us.
And if you have any questions that you pose to us and we love them, we'll put it on the show. We'll call you right out and say, hey, so and so, we love this question. This is our answer. Yeah. Because more than anything, we want to hear from you guys too. That's the reason why we started this. We had an opinion. We talk amongst each other. We want to share it with you guys too, and want to hear what you guys got to say.
Absolutely. And now that you've heard this long ass opinion of ours on promotions, on regulations, on violations, on individual fighters and thoughts of legends, championships, and time to retire, we want to thank you for joining us on this little podcast of ours. And, tune in next time and you can hear us talk about how fights go down after the bell.
Latest.